Goodbye to Patrick Graham. Coming up here today on the Raiders Report, I'm going to tell you why the Las Vegas Raiders defensive coordinator is going to be coaching in his final game for the Silver and Black this Sunday, NFL Week 18, up against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know this, we have finally made it to the year of 2026. I know for Raider Nation, 2025 is one of the worst years I've ever had to deal with, but then also at the end of the day, I kind of want to tip my cap a little bit to Pete Carroll for helping us lock in the number 2 overall pick, to lock in a top 2 pick. I guess I should say to help lock in a top 2 pick. We want the number 1 overall pick. But let's face the facts here. This offseason is going to be wild. It's going to be exciting. And to make sure you don't miss anything, and if you're looking for free Raiders videos every single day in the year of 2026, make sure you're subscribed. So today's show is all around Patrick Graham, and this has been a topic that I have discussed numerous times on the Raiders Report, because I have been saying for weeks, I have been saying for months, that Patrick Graham will not be returning to the Raiders after this season. He has been the defensive coordinator with the Silver and Black since 2022, when the Raiders went out and they hired head coach Josh McDaniels, when they went out and hired GM Dave Ziegler. That was the regime that brought PG in. PG made it through Antonio Pearson, Tom Telesco. PG was brought back with Pete Carroll and John Spytek. But the fact that this is his final year with the Raiders, there is not going to be an opportunity, and I'm going to tell you why he's not going to be returning next season. When you look at the last 4 years for PG, there is a little bit of a difficult thing to look at, because if you look at this at just numbers and numbers alone, the Raiders haven't done a very good job on the defensive side of the football, but then I would also argue that the Raiders haven't spent a lot of money on the defensive side of the football. Also, the Silver and Black's offense has been so bad every single year that it's put an extra emphasis on defense, and that defense has played a lot of time out there on the field, points per game and yards per game. And there is a lot of probably Raiders fans that like PG. There's a lot of Raiders fans that don't like Patrick Graham. But the reason why, there are multiple reasons why his time in Las Vegas is over. Let's go to that first reason. Literally, his time is up. Like, he does not have a brand new deal next year. When you remember, and this is why I do think it's really important for people to subscribe to this show, because during the offseason, the Raiders gave PG a $1 million raise. They gave him $4 million. Remember, it was like Chip Kelly's getting $6 million, Patrick Graham's getting $4 million, but his contract with the Raiders is over after this year. And PG, he's going to be looking for another coaching opportunity. Let's just face the facts here, because he's going to be looking for somewhere to go. He's actually, at the time that I'm making this video, literally speaking to the media right now, which is pretty wild. But to me, the Raiders went out, they gave him a raise. They think about how they're going to try to replace him. That's still very much up in the air, because it depends who you're going to bring in next year. But Patrick Graham is going to be looking for new opportunities, and the fact that he doesn't have a contract with the Raiders means his time is up with the Raiders. So before we do this, because I know a lot of people, when I talk about coaches getting moved on from, it's been a tough year, and we've really ripped apart this coaching staff, and it's the truth. Pete Carroll has not done a good job. The Raiders' offensive line has not done a good job. But I like Patrick Graham. I think he's a smart coach. I think he's been kind of given a raw end of the deal a little bit. So if you also respect PG, and I know it's never easy to lose your job, comment PG down below, because I'll tell you this, I have the utmost respect for Patrick Graham. I think he's a damn good coach, and I know he's going to get another opportunity this offseason. Let's go to the next reason here why Patrick Graham is done in Las Vegas. Pete Carroll's going to get fired. You know it. I know it. We've been talking about it for weeks. We've been talking about it for months. But when Pete Carroll ends up getting fired, and I don't know if it's going to happen Sunday night or if it's going to happen Monday morning, but buckle up, because when the Raiders do decide to fire Pete, I'm going to be going live 11 hours, 11 minutes. It's going to be a wild show. But whoever that new head coach that they decide to bring in is, they're going to be looking for their brand new regime. That head coach is going to bring in a new offensive coordinator. That new head coach is going to bring in a new defensive coordinator. Because, yes, as it stands right now, we have the number 1 overall pick. You got salary cap space. You got draft picks in total. But the way that you're going to attract the best head coach possible, you let them bring in then their coaching staff. Now, before we get into the other reasons here of why the Raiders are going to be moving on from Patrick Graham and why PG is going to be moving on from the Las Vegas Raiders, huge shout out to today's sponsor, Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops, and Prize Picks lets you take control. On Prize Picks, how you play is up to you, and if you want flexibility, choose a flex play where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So I said there a little bit of a power play. That's what I'm going to be doing this week for Raiders-Chiefs action. Now, I'll say this. When I made today's show, not a lot of options on Prize Picks for the Raiders. It's literally Ashton Genty, and then there's one for Michael Mayer, there's one for Trey Tucker, and both of those are touchdowns. I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to go more for Genty on the touchdowns because I just think like if anybody scores for the silver and black, it's going to be Genty. And then when you look at there for the Kansas City Chiefs, I decided to go the more on Kelsey. It's his final game, I believe, ever. And I could just see Andy Reid finding a way to get him into the end zone one last time. And Kelsey always seems to eat against the silver and black. Then quarterback Chris Oladunkin, I don't know, Dunkin' Donuts. I think I'm going to go here, give him the more. But this is a 4-pick power play. It's only $5 to pay $30. So if you got a little bit of a bigger bankroll, maybe you're the Weldonator out there, you put a little bit more money down, you have a bigger opportunity to put some money in your pocket. So you can roll with that lineup if you want because now Prize Picks is available in all 50 states. Download the Prize Picks app today. Make sure that you use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Let's go to the next reason why Patrick Graham is going to be done in Las Vegas. I kind of mentioned it here, kind of reiterating it, but you're going to bring in a brand new head coach. And not saying that PG doesn't deserve another potential opportunity to be brought back, but when you already hear rumors from Jeremy Fowler, which came out earlier in the week that said that the Raiders have already had some preliminary research on going out and getting a head coach, the front office, the owners, they're ready to move on. Pete Carroll himself said the other day at the podium that him and John Spytek didn't see eye to eye for most of the season, which we reported multiple times here on the Raiders Report. But that new coach is going to want to bring in a new staff. And if you don't like that, I kind of am going to say you should like that because how many people out there are so sick and tired of bringing in bad head coaches? You want the best head coach possible? The best head coach possible is going to bring in his OC, and he's going to be bringing in a brand new DC, which is what this team honestly needs. Let's go to the next reason why PG is going to be done in Vegas. He's going to get a new job. He's going to get another opportunity. I'm not going to sit up here and say that he's going to get another defensive coordinator job, though. You know how I always say, like, last year I sat up here on this show and I was going, Mike Vrabel, the Raiders, he'd be a good hire because there's not 32 head coaches on this planet better than Mike Vrabel. I'll also say that I don't really think that there are 32 defensive coordinators on this planet better than Patrick Graham. But I've been saying for weeks and months that this is going to be a split that's going to happen. And it's a split because PG's going to want to separate and go elsewhere. The Raiders are also going to want to go their own direction. But the fact that Patrick Graham has gotten head coach consideration before, some people could say it's only the Rooney Rule. I don't think that that's fair to Patrick Graham. He's a very smart, good teacher, which is really an important aspect of coaching. You can't just be a smart mind. You got to be a good teacher. And that's something that, even back at his days at Duke, people used to always talk about that with Patrick Graham. Back in his days with the New York Giants. So when you hear of a coach getting potential head coaching looks, and he was getting those looks last year with the Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously they decided not to go in that direction, but it just speaks volumes of what the NFL world thinks of Patrick Graham. And again, I will wish him nothing, and I mean nothing but the best. The final reason, sometimes, man, it's just time for change. And I'm hoping that whoever we decide to bring in, I'm not going to say we're going to be doing a lot of turnover on our defensive side of the football. I hope that the Raiders can find a way to retain Rob Leonard. Rob Leonard's not going to be promoted to the next defensive coordinator, but at the end of the day, time's for change. And sometimes that's at a quarterback position. Sometimes that's at the defensive coordinator position. Even though there have been times where I've said again and again and again, I really wish there was a lot more talent on this defense. I wish Pete Carroll didn't really change up the way Patrick Graham ran his defense, because I think you would have saw a lot better overall performance from that side of the football. But we can all agree here. I think it's a clean slate. Let's move on. Wish PG the nothing but the best. But it is time for change for us as well. So before I hop on out of here, how would you grade Patrick Graham's time with the Raiders? He's been the defensive coordinator since 2022. He's had to deal with the multiple different regimes. So A, B, C, D, or F. My answer is going to be coming up here after this YouTube ad break. The reason why I'm going to give him a B grade is because when you have the amount of turnover that the Raiders have had, it's hard to do your job well. Also, when you've had that amount of turnover, you're dealing with players from McDaniel's regime, from AP's regime, from Gruden's regime, from Pete Carroll's regime. And when you're taking all these different regimes and you have to throw everything together and you're not spending a lot of money on the defensive side of the football, it makes it tough for you to do your job. I know we always say the Patrick Graham defense is bend but don't break. When you're on the field a lot, you have a tendency to break a little bit more often. I'm going to give him a B grade overall because I do think he is a good coach. Patrick Graham, wish you nothing but the best, but unfortunately your time with the Las Vegas Raiders is over.